Tonight, Ghana's gross international reserves declined to $7.6 billion ending June this year. That's from $8.1 billion in May this year as well. This is based on Bank of Ghana documents seen by Joy Business, which should cover 3.4 months of import cover for the country. It comes after the Finance Committee report on the $750 million loan between Ghana and Afreximbank reported that the reserves had declined from $9 billion to $3 billion. The Finance Committee has described the earlier report as an error and an unfortunate oversight. It, however, maintains that the net reserves had dropped from a little over $6 billion to $3.5 billion. Now, the statement signed by the chairman of the Finance Committee, Kwaku Kwarteng, asked the Speaker of Parliament for the necessary corrections to be made to the records. We'll hear from economist Professor Lord Mensah on this matter, but first, let's listen to Kwaku Kwarteng, who spoke on the floor of Parliament.
The Speaker, on that day, I laid a report on behalf of the Finance Committee before this House on the loan facility agreement between the government of Ghana and the African Export-Import Bank for a maximum of $750 million US to finance capital and growth-related expenditures in the 2022 budget statement. In that report, Mr. Speaker, we reported that the international reserves of the Bank of Ghana had declined from $9 billion to $3 billion US. Mr. Speaker, this was an error. It was an unfortunate oversight. According to the Bank of Ghana, the gross international reserves of the country was $9.7 billion at the close of December 2021. This declined to $7.68 billion at the close of June 2022. In terms of net international reserves, the country closed December 2021 with $6.08 billion. This position declined to $3.58 billion at the close of June 2022. Mr. Speaker, the error is regretted, and I request the clerk at table to ensure that all the records are accordingly corrected. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And joining us with his perspective is economist Professor Lord Mensah. We're grateful that you could join us. What do you make of the development following the correction, the statement that corrected the issue by the Finance Committee? An error, an unfortunate oversight. What's your perspective on this?
I think for me, where I sit, I look at it as how serious we are when it comes to the economic management of this country. I'm wondering why, 7.68 billion would turn up to be 3 billion. It wasn't even 6.8 billion, which sometimes will be closer to the 7.68 billion, or possibly 8.6 billion, but then rather, 7 billion. So I'm wondering where the committee chairman at Parliament got his information from before he put it on the table. We need to understand that Parliament represents the people. In as much as they're sitting in the chamber, that is the reflection of the masses. And so effectively, if we are making mistakes and then we gloss over it, that it should be corrected, we should understand that the 3 billion that was put on the table gave us the signal that the country is in a dire need of money. And as a result of that, if the 750 million is not approved, we may be in trouble. But then now it turns out to be 7.58, which is about 3.4 months import cover. Then how depressed was the system that will require 750 billion. So I think in as much as the 3 billion, it's a logical thing that I'm trying to put across. across, if 3 billion will allow you to go and borrow 750, then if you are correcting it, then possibly we may borrow less. So if they are revising, the 700, that's what do you call it, the 3 billion to 7.68 billion to be our international reserve, then possibly we may need less to borrow. So the amount that we're going to borrow should also be revised. So for me, the information and the way it was put out there, I'm not happy. And if you look at it tells you the seriousness that the economic management team of this country put on, when it comes to the affairs of this country. So I would say that yes, if it's 7.68 billion, then we are not that under pressure. We can borrow 750 million as we speak. It could be less. So that should be also revised. So I'm expecting that whilst he was, tabling across that they should revise the 3 billion to 7.68 billion, they should have also revised the 750 million that we were going to borrow. And so that it will come down, maybe 300 million or something. But they didn't do that. And I'm wondering, but the 3 billion that was put across there, it was giving us a signal that our import cover is even less than 2 months. Indeed. And as a result of that, if we don't, do something about it, both majority and minority should come together. But now it turns out to be 7.68 billion. That means you don't need 750 million that you were going to borrow. So probably they may have to, call for a revision of the amount we're going to borrow from the Afro-Exim Bank.
And of course, it begs the question of whether or not this raises serious data integrity issues to us as a country from the perspective of prospective investors.
It does. I've been talking about the uncertainty and the kind of information we out there. So this tells you that the communication between the finance ministry, the parliament, the presidency, and then the Bank of Ghana is quite a problem. Because if you are going to put something, to negotiate for the other side to accept, a loan that you're going for, you don't come out with the wrong figure. And it's not even close. You look at 3 billion and 7.68 billion. It's a huge difference. And so for me, I think it has to do with data problem. And you see, if you have data that is uncertain, it turns out to be building up into trust issues. And the banks that are even lending to you will not trust you. By the end, you pay more interest on the loans that you are going for. So we need to be careful. And the communication between those institutions who deals with our finances should be, smooth and clear, so that when they come out, they may not come out with different data sets as we speak.
You talk about the banks who having to reconsider when it comes to the, issuing out of facilities. But what about investor confidence as well? Because we do know that whatever happened on the floor of Parliament or in the finance ministry has some rippling effect on our image out there. So paint us that picture of what this could mean for investor confidence, even as we're speaking when the country is even having issues raising funds from Eurobonds.
It's obviously, every investor wants a certain environment, an environment where information is very certain. But when you are data is information. When you have a 3 billion and you are saying that you present the 3 billion and you go back and revise to 7.68 billion, that puts some doubt on you and the kind of system you are running. And so effectively, the investor confidence will go down. But every investor would like to come to an environment where, information is clean and clear. And at the end of the day, you'll be sound when it comes to where he's putting his money. But if you put up uncertain information, especially when you have a hung parliament where both minority and majority, are well balanced, and by so doing can affect decision, and you put up such information, the confidence will definitely go down. And if I were to be investor, I would have waited for some time for things to settle, for me to be sure the kind of information that is put out there before I can bring my money to such environment.
Indeed, and we'll see how this pans out, especially when the finance minister is prepping to present the media budget. We're grateful, Professor Lord Mensah, for your analysis on this unfortunate situation, which has been duly described by the head of the Finance Committee in Parliament.